Good afternoon. Welcome to the Bremerton Municipal Court State of the Courts Address. Today, February 16th, 2024. Advance, please. It is my pleasure to stand here with you today again. This is our second State of the Courts Address as I was elected in November of 2021. I feel it is very important to be able to provide information to our community on what is happening in our courts on a daily basis over the period of the year that has passed. And it is my pleasure to be able to update you on the progress that we have made with our reorganization that has taken place, and to introduce you to some changes that have been made over the last 12 months. And that begins with myself as the presiding judge, as well as our court administrator, Christina, who you see a picture of on our slides today. Christina has been with the court for over a year now and is your court administrator for the Bremerton Municipal Court. One of the things that has been a significant change over the last year is the need for security. That has increased as when I took office, we were in COVID. Clearly, the Supreme Court still had COVID orders in place, and the majority of our hearings were taking place over Zoom. Since that time, where we have opened back up significantly, we've had more foot traffic and more incidents at the Bremerton Municipal Court. So now we have 2 security officers at our court, one who is our door security officer who is contracted, and one armed security officer for our courtrooms. We have continued to do team lunches, the last one for the holiday, and be able to reflect on how it is we continue to serve our community, continuing to promote bilingual staff. We, in the reorg, now have a position for a part-time bailiff. We have 2 senior legal technicians, 2 legal technicians 2, and 1.5 legal technicians 1. We have filled the position for our court commissioner, and we have 2 services support positions. Those services support positions are in our probation department, and our probation department has been revamped to be able to serve the whole person. So not just punitive in nature, but serving the whole individual of defendants that come through our court. Next slide, please. We have also revamped our hours of operation. Those hours of operation continue to include being closed during the lunch hour from 12:15 to 1:15 daily. Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, we open at 8 a.m. And on Tuesdays and Thursdays, we open at 7:45, and the 7:45 time frame accommodates being able to have more time on our video in custody calendar, as we are the first court that the Kitsap County has on their jail rosters, and there are multiple courts that utilize the Kitsap County jail staffing. And I've since learned, since we've started this whole process, that the Kitsap County jail staff has not increased since I was a public defender. So they have been more accommodating and allowing us to be able to access and be able to have a calendar 15 minutes earlier on Tuesdays and Thursdays to make that accommodation. So that allows for us to open earlier to the public as well. We close Monday through Thursday at 4:30 and on Fridays at 4 p.m. Our court covers gross misdemeanors and misdemeanors, traffic infractions. There's impound hearings, traffic citations, our red light red light camera calendar, and we run calendars Monday through Friday. So we are the only full-time court, municipal court in Kitsap County. Our other municipal courts are part-time courts. And in addition to the hours that I've indicated as far as calendars running, the Bremerton Police Department also supports the court in providing transportation and transports for our jail calendar to also ensure that we're able to timely deal with those matters that may require a little bit more time in getting the disposition. Sometimes there's a need to set a matter over because of the unavailability of an interpreter. So this allows for us to be able to do that as well. So that is a great support that the Bremerton Police Department has given us. Next slide, please. So at this time, it's important also to highlight that changes make a difference. I've highlighted some of the changes that have been taking place. We began our community court resource fairs last year, and we held 3 resource fairs for the year. Our calendar for this year is March 1st for our first one, June 14th for our next one, which will be in conjunction with Juneteenth, and September 6th. Those resource fairs are held 12 to 4 at the Marvin Williams Center. And I wanted to read a quote to you, and it's from a mentor, Justice Mary Fairhurst, when she was Chief Justice, her last address to the legislator, and she's no longer with us. But this quote is very fitting. We do not make a difference every day, or we do make a difference every day. We make a difference individually and collectively. We make a difference by what we do and by what we don't do. And we make a difference by how we do it. Every day we get to decide what difference we make, to understand that we hold in our hands the power to change a circumstance, a mind, or a life. Right now is incredible. And we each have that power. And so, because we've been doing the community court program for a year, I really felt it was important to hear from someone from our community at this time who has been involved with our resource fairs and other partnerships during this last year. And I want to bring up Ms. Reba at this time, and she's going to make some quick remarks.
Thank you, Judge Flood. Hello, my name is Reba, and I am a manager for Kitsap Mental Health. I run our inpatient facility, Pacific Hope and Recovery, and our residential housing program, Keller House. I'm not coming as a representative of Kitsap Mental Health, but as a community member. We have been involved in the community events. But one of the biggest things that I get to be a part of, and being in this field and working for many nonprofit agencies in our community, is not really having the pleasure of people who have severe mental health or substance abuse and having good interactions with legal or systems. So, being in this field and working with individuals, I came across this person I was working with, and they're sitting outside and they're just waiting to get in, and they had a bright, when somebody just empowers you, but they had a light in their eyes, and they looked at me, and he said, "We have a black judge," and I said, "Yes, we do," and he said, "She really cares." And I said, "Yes, she does." And he said, "She's seen me. She didn't see my mental illness." So when he said that to me, this person has been constantly, nonstop in systems without housing for a long time. And this time around, this individual was able to complete services. This individual was able to get into housing. This individual sees life a little differently. This individual has stayed on their medications. And I know that's just one person that I've come in contact with, but there's other people that we do support and bring down here and make sure. And when they do come down here, they come back in a way of like, hey, I want to take care of some things. You know, and that says a lot for them to interact and be scared, because prior to them coming in or going, you know, coming to court, there's a lot of anxiety, there's a lot of stress that's going on. We're having to help them regulate their emotions before they come. And after they come, it's different. They're seeing a different light. They have some choices to make. They have a plan to make. And I want to thank you, Judge Flood, for seeing them. And that means a lot. Thank you.
So thank you, Ms. Reber, for providing those remarks and comments, because I feel that it is important for our community to know and to hear things that the media does not portray or report back to our community. The next slide, please. So we continue to deal with the impact of COVID. The impact continues. We have had staff, judges that have gotten COVID more than once. We continue to deal with other illnesses that come up as well. RSV, pneumonia, flu. All of these things impact access to justice. And when we're looking at how do we access the courts, how do we continue to serve the community in making sure that individuals receive and are able to access the courts and receive a fair hearing. So, as I mentioned, the remote calendars for the jail calendar, with us opening back up, the court has required more in-person appearances. And that's because of the impact of COVID, not being in person, continuing cases, hearing after hearing after hearing. Now that things have gotten better, being able to have more in-person hearings continues to move them along and to get their cases resolved, whether it's through a resolution with a contract with the prosecutors, whether it's becoming a part of the community court program, or whether it's a trial or a plea. Continuing to move the clock and move them along in their hearings. Our O courts, which is our forms document that we use, continues to allow people to do the work remotely. If there's a defendant or an attorney who's working from out of county, they can still access the paperwork virtually through our O court system, and we continue to receive updates as the laws change, the documents are updated. We also have updated the court's website and now have documents that are available on the court's website. And that is something that this court did not have before. And the return to in-person hearings is important, as we still allow for attorneys to make motions to appear virtually, to allow for there to be some flexibility, but we do require for the dispositions of those individuals who are in the state to be done in person. We've had challenges with public defense throughout the state, throughout the country. There is a shortage of public defenders. There's a shortage of attorneys. even in prosecutors' offices across the state. The Office of Public Defense is addressing that. Our American Bar Association is also continuing to revise caseload limits and to shrink them. Our interpreter calendar continues to be held twice a month. We have many in our community that are Hmong speaking, Spanish speaking. We have Chinese, Russian. We have Chukis, which is a native language that is very hard to be able to find interpreters for. The interpreter that we currently use appears remotely because they reside in Oregon. So continuing to have the virtual capabilities to be able to do hearings allows for us to be able to serve these populations and not deny them access to our courts and access and justice for all. Next slide, please. Technology. So last year, I was excited because I had written some grants and there were some grant proposals that were coming down and we were needing such an update in our courthouse. And I am proud to say that those updates have been completed. We do have a new media system. It's not perfect, but it's better than what we had. And it was within what we were able to have as far as funding through the state and the Office of the Courts. This provided us new monitors, new microphones that are wireless. We have some microphones that look like little remote controls that are portable and can be carried throughout the courthouse, as well as handheld microphones like the ones that are here. We continue to have our AV media cart that's available for trial use and in any emergencies that may arise. The collections process, we've been able to streamline some of our other processes in the court that have been taking 2 and 3 touches on the computer to process things. And thanks to Ms. Christina being able to navigate those contracts and work those billing procedures out as well with the city and having more automation for our pro tems, whereas before things were not being processed automatically and virtually, but that is in place now. So our juries continue to be able to view the videos that the federal courts have placed out on jury bias, and that is viewed by every jury member before the instructions and they come out for jury selection. Next slide, please. And I want to highlight that the Bremerton Municipal Community Court, our therapeutic court program, addresses individuals with mental health as well as substance abuse issues. It can be dual diagnosis or it can be single diagnosis. And the healing the community by healing the individual. Ms. Reba mentioned one individual. We are now up to 7 participants in our community court, 3 of which have full-time jobs. And housing that has been secured for them. It addresses them as individuals. The check-ins with them on a weekly basis addresses them as individual participants. There's not a one-size-fits-all. And one of our participants just graduated from ABHS in Spokane. And my heart is full because she had had several trips to the emergency room. And when you're dealing with an individual that has been through so many systems, I'm not sure that the doctors really heard her and heard her needs. But in Spokane, we got her there into a bed date. She ended up in the emergency room, having emergency surgery that saved her life. And this individual, no matter what she was doing, she showed up for court. Whether she was under the influence, whatever was happening, she showed up for therapeutic court. She'd come in, she may fall asleep, and then when I call her name, she'd say, "Good morning, Judge, I'm here, Judge." But these are the lives that we're touching, and each one of those individuals that we touch share their story with someone else. And this is the focus on restorative justice, accountability, and providing resources to these individuals. Next slide, please. So we're responding to the community crisis that we have for those individuals with mental health issues. We're responding to public safety. We're reducing incarceration. We're connecting these individual participants with mental health services that they have not been able to connect with. For whatever reason, these systems present hurdles. Stability. And another story was one of the first resource fairs we held. One of our first participants helped in one of the vendors, and at that time, he didn't have housing that was secure. He was sleeping on a sofa. But that same day, that same individual that he helped was with an agency that had housing for him. So bringing the resources to these individuals is what our community court is doing. Next slide. In 2022 and 2023, we also wanted to reach our community through our youth, through our schools, providing educational opportunities for them to be in a courtroom. We held several youth and law forums, and I am happy to say that last October, we held our first countywide youth and law forum. And we even had kids that came from outside of the county. It provided them an opportunity to engage with law enforcement, with people who work in the justice system outside of the courts, but are connected to the courts. To be able to ask questions about careers in the justice system. And a chance to play Juvenile Justice Jeopardy, which I had a wonderful time with. The game system is an educational one that is set up just like the Jeopardy game that you see on TV. So the interactions were great. There were teams. I think we had 4 teams. And the questions were intriguing and engaging. And most importantly, the parents that attended with the children learned things as well. And I received a follow-up email from a family from the Sequoia. And one of the tribes, I don't want to mistake the tribes, but this individual brought their kids. And the next day, he emailed and said, "My kids are still talking about the Youth and Law Forum and the questions and what they learned and interacting with the professionals that were there. That's the impact of education, them learning, empowering our youth to look at careers in the justice system for our future. In these youth and law forums, we've partnered with the Bremerton Police Department, the Washington State Patrol, Port Orchard Police Chief, DuPont Police Chief, Kitsap Public Health, the NAACP, and the Minority and Justice Commission for the state, along with the Links Incorporated and several of our HBCUs, fraternity and sororities. Next slide, please. Community connections are not only important for us here in the Kitsap County area, but throughout the state. And as a judge and a part of my judiciary committees that I participate in with our District and Municipal Court Judges Association, includes the Therapeutic Courts Board, Diversity Board, Law Day committees. We've been able to do security training with bringing in security, a private security company to provide security training for us. What do you do in an emergency? And we're working on our security plan. And this is important because I'm not sure of how many of you have seen that video with the judge sitting on the bench and her holding her head down and making comments, and the defendant leaping across the bench. There's a judge on the East Coast who was murdered last year. Judicial security is an issue. Judicial safety in every aspect is an issue in every courthouse in this country, and I would dare to say outside of this country. Continuing to work with Constitutional Day, judges in the classroom, so not only bringing them into the courthouse, but going to the classrooms. That is something that we are charged with doing as judges. Next slide, please. Presenting a new perspective from what has been seen as this is what happens in the court. This is how you go in and to be fearful. But a new perspective of accountability. Reducing barriers to alternatives to jail. And that includes EHM, having TAD units available through our probation department, and instituting additional options from WASPIC, which Washington State Patrol provides these things to the courts, and exploring additional options to alternatives to confinement. And with our services support specialists, providing more case management for more accountability and more support, so that those things that we are telling them to do, we're charging them with, we're requiring them to do, they're able to get done. And to stop that revolving door because they can't get it done. But also to look at things as far as how much time is being imposed on matters that are misdemeanors. If they're 90 days in jail with a maximum penalty and a maximum fine of $1,000, the court taking jurisdiction for an extended amount of time for 24 months, is that reasonable, or does that cost taxpayers? driving while license suspended in the third degree are matters of poverty. They've been given a ticket, maybe a few tickets, or an incident that results in them being suspended in the third degree. Some individuals may not even know that they're suspended in the third degree. But is that something that we in the Bremerton Municipal Court need to be addressing when other courts around the state don't even charge them? Now, granted, every individual case is its case, but that's something to think about when other courts don't charge that misdemeanor crime. Next slide. Staying ahead of the curve. Continuing to expand our therapeutic court program, increasing the alternatives that I've mentioned. And there's a picture of a young man holding the gavel from our countywide Youth and Law Forum there. Things that we've done, like the reorganization of our staff, refocusing our probation department on services to the individual, our community resource fairs, and most importantly, now providing those reports to the state when there's threats that come into our staff from individuals who come through our court, because those things are being tracked by the state, making sure the reports that need to be done are being done to ensure that security and safety stay at the forefront for not only myself as the judge, but our staff who comes to work every day. And those members of the public that access our courthouse. Thank you for listening. Thank you for your time. And I appreciate each and every one of you in virtual land and those that are here in person. That is all, unless you have any questions. I'm happy to answer. Thank you.